It's Thursday again, tell everybody to lock in, grab some popcorn, a drink, and go and throw your AirPods in. It's the 1 hour show, constantly speaking facts. Bulletproof stats are always shooting from Matt. And when it comes to Kyle, you getting numbers and style. Jake is gonna educate you, he has that knowledge on file. Players, step your game up, don't be sluggish or lazy. Or Jimmy J might hit you with a shaky baby. Catch him on YouTube or any podcast platform. Breaking all the news down like Shaq does the backboards. No hot takes, this is where the hottest debate's at. Now kick your feet up, cause it's time for straight facts.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains, brought to you by the Up On Game Presents Network. You guys know what I'm about to say. Make sure you're liking, following, subscribing to Up On Game on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your content. Great stuff coming out there with LeVar, Plex, and TJ and the crew. But I'm here with my guys. It's your boy Jimmy J. I'm here with my guys, Jake Galley and Stab Matt Robinson again. And y'all, first of all, we've been getting the best of both worlds between football and basketball, but we had a couple of football-centric pods, so we're going to switch over to the NBA to get things started. But before we do, welcome to the pod. How we doing this week? Hump Day Wednesday.
Terrible. Awful week.
I definitely didn't really expect that. Usually you get the polite, like, oh, I'm good. I'm doing well.
James,
the
O has gone. The O has fallen. Olympus has fallen for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I was there in person to watch it. And I needed a minimal performance from A.J. Brown to win in fantasy. And he didn't get there. So it's just the triple crown. Yeah. I'm ready to talk some basketball is what that means.
I'm not worried about the Eagles. Tough loss, but just one of those games. Yeah.
Y'all weren't going to go.
I lost a tough one in fantasy too because the Eagles defense didn't show up for the first half. Wow. Lost by 2 points. So
that's tough. I split 1-1. I got back to the winning side in the league that I'm like towards the top in, like second, I think, in the league. And then in the other one, I'm like middling in the pack. I just went to 500 last week with a win, lost this week, so I'm back under 500. So that's good. But the thing about the Eagles is like, y'all weren't going to go undefeated. You can be the best team in the NFL, and I still think you are, but you weren't an undefeated.
We weren't even halfway there.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, at some point, it was going to happen. I get that it's tough that it happened against Washington. That's kind of a game that you want to beat. Like, put it this way, Jake. Would you be as upset if you lost to the Colts next week?
I'd be more upset if we lost to the Colts.
Really? Why? I would think that wouldn't matter.
Colts stink.
Yeah, but it's the Colts. Like in the grand scheme of things,
in terms of how much the loss, right? In that regard,
you know what I mean?
What I'm saying is, I would have. Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess. I think it would be a worse flag if they lost to the Colts.
No Frank Reich.
The Chiefs lost to the Colts.
Yeah, like this was a division game at home in prime time. Like it hurts a lot.
But those that's like you expect that to happen. Like right, like you said, like you kind of expect like it's a divisional game. Granted, it's at home. I don't know. It was a hard loss to watch. It was not fun.
Stupid turnovers and rough calls like the Goddard and like the Quez Watkins fumble's gonna hurt for a while, but
yeah, that's gonna be tough. All right. But we said we were going to talk basketball, and we almost got into a whole NFL discussion.
I felt this going.
Yeah, I felt this going on the path too. Let's switch it because it's time to do an NBA heat check. We've done this in the past, and I really like when we do something like this. Is we identify through the early part of the season guys that are now starting to heat up, and we do a lot with a team-centric focus, and I like that we're going to do it with a player-centric focus and just see like which guys they may have started hot and are continuing it, or guys like this first guy we're going to talk about who didn't start too hot and are turning it on. So the first one is going to be Joel Embiid, now averaging 32, 10, and 4 on the season. In the last 4 games, plus 10 and a plus minus against Phoenix in a 12-point win, plus 10 against Atlanta in a 9-point loss, plus 22 against Atlanta, turning around in a 12-point win, and then plus 25 against Utah in a 7-point win. Oh, and by the way, he dropped in that midst. Statistically, probably the best stat line in NBA history. No one has had 50, 10, 5, and 5 in one basketball game, and Joel Embiid did it against the Jazz. So, Stat Matt, I'm gonna let you take this one first because when Embiid was struggling, you looked us dead in the camera and you were like, I'm not worried about Joel Embiid. You literally say you were so confident about it. You're like, you know what? I'm not worried about him. He can have his slump. And this is your validation right here, sir. He seems to be A-okay.
He's back, and the only upsetting thing about this is that he might be keeping Doc Rivers employed with these last two performances.
A little sore.
But Joel Embiid is just the best basketball player I've ever watched for a team that I root for. And it's not really close. And it's one of those things where the Sixers might be a disaster. They might screw up a bunch of different things because that's what they've done. But it's games like that game against Utah where you just have to like live in the moment and appreciate that this player is playing for your team. And that's what that night was. And it was just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, he has a little bit of it's funny that him and Harden are on the same team. Granted, Harden started the season pretty well, but they both take a little while to ramp up, and rightfully so for Embiid. Take as much time as you want, because ultimately whatever workload results in him being available at 100% and being fresh for the playoffs, do whatever you want, really, truly. Like, you still have to win some games, which they haven't been doing, and he's been playing a lot of minutes, but there's a ton of encouraging stuff with the Sixers since the last time that we spoke about him, and specifically like Embiid beyond just obviously he's exploded points per game wise, second in the league with 32.3, excuse me. But he's shooting 23.7% from 3-point. 23.7%. Career, he shoots 33%. So like, I'm assuming that it'll eventually regress to the mean and he'll go back closer to that 33%, which means he has some really hot shooting streaks to get there. So we're probably looking at another year, if he plays the whole year, where Joel Embiid will be in the MVP conversation the whole time. If he continues to play like this, I would say he should win it. But that was last year as well, maybe even the year before that. So I'm not even going to say who cares who wins it. My eyeballs tell me he's the best player in the league. So that's all that I need.
For me, it's the defense that because he has to get this team to win, he needs to make all these incredible running back on defense plays when he's just clearly gassed. Second end of the back-to-back, the Jazz have a fast break. He stops it with a ferocious block on Conley. And it's just those moments. And it's not just that, like even the game they lose to Atlanta in the last 4 games, he's plus 10 in like 37 minutes. It just shows like how, and they lose by 9. So they're minus 19 in 11 minutes. It just shows how important he is, especially with no Harden. And he's got to keep us afloat, and he is doing that right now, although it shouldn't have to be this difficult for him.
Yeah, but that's not a surprise about how difficult it is for him. He carried the weight of the world on his shoulders through back-to-back, seasons in the playoffs, for the Sixers. And when you have no Harden, who else is the workload going to fall on? But the without Harden part to me is glaring. And I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade, but I just think it's an awfully big coincidence, if it is one, that Embiid starts to break out when Harden's not on the floor, and it continues to be the biggest question mark to me is can we get this Embiid when Harden gets back? Are we going to get the Harden that we had when they started the season and Embiid wasn't there, or Embiid wasn't 100%? Like when they're both at 100% and they're both on the floor, can we get the best version of both Harden and Embiid? Like, this is great to see. Like
the point totals won't be the same because Embiid.
No. I don't expect them to have.
But
60,
Embiid scored 40 points in games where Harden's played. Like, it's not like it hasn't happened. And Harden, like,
but as Harden also scored 30.
Just because Harden was in a shooting slump last year and he was playing with like a not the great.
But you hear all the coincidences. Like these sound like a whole lot of coincidences, but we never have seen them both.
Never seen them both in the same room.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think
we keep making excuses for it.
I don't think Harden says like I need to shoot 1,000,000 times. I don't think Embiid says I need to shoot 1,000,000 times. So I think they're going to be, and Harden's one of the best passers of this generation. I think they'll absolutely learn to play good offensive basketball together.
Here's what worries me.
As long as Doc doesn't screw it up.
It's like,
which is a big if.
Well, hey,
that's a win. Yeah. That's not.
There we go.
But what does concern me a little bit, and like this is this isn't anything new. These are existing these are existing storylines going into these guys' career in the playoffs. Like Embiid in the playoffs, Harden in the playoffs. There have been things that have gone amiss. When things are tight, it seems that often you'll look and see either of them kind of palms to the air in the playoffs, not able to get the looks that they're accustomed to getting in the regular season, because largely their games are predicated on physicality, or I guess the balancing act that you have to play. The defense can't be too physical. The offense wants to be physical enough to move them, but not get an offensive foul. So I say all that to say, I think if it has to be an either or, that's still okay. Like if it has to be, okay, Joel doesn't have it in the playoff game, time to let James pound the rock. Like that's not the worst option in the world.
That's what happened in Game 4 against Miami last year.
Yeah.
Because Joel was just coming back from the eye orbital. He wasn't concussion and he wasn't in playoff shape because he wasn't allowed to move. He had to be in bed. And then Harden made a bunch of shots to tie the series up at 2. And then I don't want to talk about what happened the rest of the series.
Here's where I think they're gonna have to where they can figure it out to be their best when they're both on the floor is like almost like the either or you're talking about, Jake, or they're both gonna have to pick their spots. Like Embiid's gonna dominate most of the game through 35 to 40 minutes. But that coming down the stretch time, I think, is when James Harden is going to have to or is going to want to take over. Like all the struggles we've seen Embiid in the late games and not being able to get out of double teams or not making the right decisions at the end of games. That's when James Harden can shine with, top of the key pick and roll, or even in an ISO situation. Matt, you said he's one of the best passers. He's also one of the best, setup man and decision makers, at least in the league right now. So I think that's where it's going to have to happen. But for what it's worth, Embiid is off to or is getting back to a torrid start right now. And I know a stat that makes Sixers fans happy is he had more points in one game in that 59-point outing than Ben Simmons had all season up until last night. I'm not sure what he scored.
He didn't play last night.
He didn't play at all last night?
But he had a sore knee.
Wow. No, I thought I even gave him more credit because I swore
just what I thought.
Yeah, well, I saw him always warming up, so I swore that he played, but that's really tough. But anyway, we can move on to the next person, Sir Steph Curry, who it's a heat check, but I'm not sure Steph ever really slowed down that much since his finals run, averaging 31, 6 and 6 right now, 52% from the field, 43% from three, 92% from the foul line. So Steph casually 50, 40, 90 season on 31 points from the field, just casually, highest 3-point percentage since his 2015, 2016 season. It's crazy. Like I said, I'm not sure that he slowed down from his finals MVP run. So Jake, you could take this one first about that, because Steph is hot, but the Warriors are not. Like the Warriors are, I believe, right under 500 right now, like a 6-8 record or something like that. Like not the team is not off to a hot start, but Steph Curry is.
Yeah, and I think that's somewhat to be expected, right? With everything that happened in their locker room between Draymond Green, Jordan Poole going into the year. It's a little bit of a weird vibe, I would imagine.
Fight night.
Yeah, it was a little, when there's Fight Club in the locker or at practice, tends to create a weird vibe. But Steph Curry, and I think we owe I owe our guy Quiddy an apology, because he came on and said Steph Curry is the best point guard of all time, and I believe I disputed him. Forget who exactly I put forth, maybe Magic. Steph Curry might be the best point guard of all time.
Yeah, but yo.
And not that anything is drastically changed, right? We've seen him play this well, but it's the fact, it's the LeBron factor of team has changed. He's getting older, but he's still able to really dominate the game. His rebounding and assist numbers, while also being still at the top of the league in scoring, is something to watch. It just makes it makes me wonder, okay, the Warriors are going to have to get out of Draymond at some point. Klay's going to probably go to the wayside soon. Am I going to be sitting here in 4 years and we're going to be like, yep, Steph Curry averaging 38, 8 and 4. Yep, he's still doing it.
He'll lose his speed, I think, in a couple of years.
Dude, he's already lost some speed. You already see him losing some of those those next level gears, it's not really seeming to matter. But Jake, that I think you hit it perfectly on the head. That's one of the things that impresses me the most is when a superstar survives like the turnover. Like when you had your dominant run, you had your era, you had your dynasty of a team, and the young guys start to come in, your older guys start to kind of fade out or not be as impactful on the roster, but you as the superstar don't waver. And it's something that I've only seen like Kobe, LeBron, I guess maybe a little bit of D-Wade, but he didn't even really survive it.
Wow.
Is Durant surviving roster? Wow. Like what roster turnover? He's been on a
he is
team.
the roster turnover.
That's
when he comes to your team, it means
people forget that they were gonna win the finals if he has a shoe size that's one shoe smaller.
That's
2 years
true.
ago. And like he was that dominant post Achilles tear. Like that, I think that counts.
But that's not what I'm talking about because that's on a different team. I'm talking about on your own team surviving a new wave coming in and your production not going down at all. Like Steph Curry, like the Warriors went from having a young roster that was going to take over the big three of Steph, Klay, and Draymond to a young roster that's going to assimilate to Steph. Like that's what the Warriors have become, and that's mad impressive. Like I think the young core was getting geared up to like, okay, when all three of these guys start to decline, we have our safety net. And it's like, well, Steph not declining anytime soon. So the only safety net we need is for Klay and Draymond. Like that's where you have to give them a whole lot of props. Because averaging 31 and 6 and 6 on 52 and 43 is not anything to shy away from, not anything to get used to. But he needs some help. Like he's almost forced to be this crazy MVP level because some of the defense, the team defense has been so horrendous. He's not getting the help from Klay Thompson. Like it's Steph, and then every fifth night you get an explosion from Jordan Poole.
Yeah, and
it's a reminder of like 2 years ago Warriors where they were playing tournament team. And Steph going nuts the whole year, but the team
Steph probably would have won MVP that year if they were the normal Warriors. If they are a 1, 2, 3 seed, Steph probably wins MVP that season.
Yeah, what should be alarming though? I mean, Steph is great, and the fact that he's continuing his greatness is like an encouraging sign. I would be really concerned about how the squandering of assets. Well, specifically like Wiseman stinks. I'm ready to call it. I'm ready to call it.
He's in the G League, man.
He's right. He just cannot play. He has not been able to catch up to the NBA speed. But like even beyond that, like him not being good, you have Jordan Poole on a very down year, minus 2.3 box plus minus. Klay's minus 5.1. Draymond is 0.1, so he's like a net average player according to box plus minus, which certainly is not the end all be all, but they will come around. But they've not been good early on, and that's why Steph.
That was my next question. We can assume Steph keeps this going. Steph is just in rare form right now. How much do we expect Klay to come back? I think Jordan Poole, if I have confidence of any of their guys to bounce back, and it's really like, Klay, Draymond, Jordan Poole, it's Jordan Poole I have the most confidence in to kind of get back into form. Like, are you confident in Klay? Kind of
Klay's gonna shoot better, but I don't think he's gonna play better, if that makes sense. Like he's gonna be better because he's gonna make more than 31% of his threes and 35% of his shots, but I don't think he can move the same way, and I think he thinks he can, which is causing him problems defensively because he's playing like how he used to play defense, but his body can't do that anymore.
Yeah, the shooting is concerning, right? 33% from three. League average from Klay Thompson. I would like to think he does shoot.
I saw I think 2 less attempts than he like normally averages. Like he's averaging.
It's 2 more attempts than he was taking in the golden years, or one to 2 more, depending on which year you look at.
If you look at the 2-point attempts, that's what's really alarming because, like, he's becoming much more. Which is crazy to think about, a lot more catch and shoot, like not going to the rim, nothing inside the arc. That's gone down, I think, like 5 attempts or something like that, and he's made about 2 or 3 less. Like that's super concerning for me too. He's becoming one-dimensional on offense, and that's not working.
I mean,
Does he try to put the ball on the floor? Does he try to go to the rim? Like that's what you have to see.
He's probably going to be relegated to like a corner shooter, which, hey,
I'll take him. Worst things for Klay Thompson, right?
I'll take it, but the days of him beating people off the dribble or making him hesitate and pulling up from mid-range, which is what you're mentioning, like only around like 5 or 6 shot attempts from 2-point range, where that was up in the 10 or 11 range back in the championship run, or well, I guess they just ran to the championship, but the other ones. So yeah, to me, it's like if they want to become a title contender, they need Jordan Poole to be an all-star, basically, is where it's at for me. And I don't know if he can do that. I'm not sure if he can. They'll make the playoffs regardless, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch.
They did it last year. I mean, I guess Jordan Poole was all-star level. Like, he wasn't an all-star, but he was all-star level.
When he played, right, like, season. When we come off the bench and you're in limited minutes, like,
that's true.
Your totals don't matter as much as, like, the burst,
And hey, first game starting, drops 30?
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Wiggins actually has been just what we expected.
18 points.
He gonna get
literally. He
gonna get his 18. Is he averaging 18? Yeah, he gonna get his 18 to 19 for sure. I bet Tobias averaging 18, 19 too.
The Tobias is good percentages, but he's only at like 14-5.
Nah, he gonna get there. All right, we'll move on to the third member of this NBA Heat checklist, and that's Sir Jayson Tatum, the now MVP frontrunner in terms of betting odds, according to Vegas, and them 31.9 points a game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists on 49, 36, and 86% from the line splits. He's one of 45 players with a usage rate of 26% or higher. Only Anthony Davis and Kelly Oubre have a lower turnover percentage in that usage rate. So JT, like, we saw the maturing of the game last season where he put it all together, good decision making, good reads, passing the ball a lot more. But then we saw, coming to the finals, we talked to our guy Martin Soares for Basketball Society a lot about this in the finals, where it was like, okay, I'm glad you can pass, JT. Like, I'm glad you do have that skill. It's really cool to see, but you're a scorer. Like, you go and you score the ball and you make winning plays that way, scoring the basketball. And to start the season, they're doing it. And the Celtics are 10-3 right now. Like, there's 11-3 now. Like, looking like they're picking up right where they left off. And you drama aside, this is still the same Celtics team, just as dominant.
Yeah, and without Robert Williams, by the way, still out.
Mm-hmm. And with a brand new coach, which is just incredibly impressive.
Yeah. Right. It makes you forget about all the scandals.
Tatum had a really horrible finals, and he didn't get a lot of criticism for it. But I think he gave himself the criticism for it and busted his butt this offseason to work on his game, and it's showing. Because in a year where everyone in the NBA is like, where every team in the NBA is like, wait, they're worse than I thought they'd be. The Celtics are like the one exception. Like, Phoenix is worse, Golden State's obviously worse, Milwaukee's worse, and the Celtics were the Eastern Conference champs last year. They're the Eastern Conference and NBA leaders this year with 11-3 record. And what Tatum's done is improved on where he had his biggest flaw, which is the best way to improve as a player. And it's his free throw attempts. In the past, he would never be able to, he never had the skill to draw fouls and get to the line. He always would prefer to try to score without getting fouled. And in the NBA, you need to make free throws. And last year, he finished 7th in scoring. All 6 players ahead of him had more free throw attempts per game. The year before, he finished 12th. 9 of the 11 ahead of him had more. The year before that, he finished 15th, 13 of the 14. This year, he is 5th in the NBA in free throw attempts per game and averaging a career-high 9, which is a great number for a forward. And the only people that have more than that are Embiid and Luka, who's just the other MVP candidate. Yes,
and 2 guys who are masterful at drawing contact and drawing fouls. Like, it's a nasty game. That's a very important stat that you just laid out there, Stat Matt. Like, it's a nasty game, the scoring is. But, when guys are consistently averaging 31, 32, guess where about like 10 to 12 of those points come from?
Yeah, like, easy ones
from the line. Yeah, gibbies. Like, that's just how this thing works. And if you take that away, then you regress back down to the 26, 27 points per game where Jayson Tatum has lived. Like that's where he's lived in that range. And if he takes this step up to consistently averaging 30 while doing it efficiently, because what's important is averaging a career high in points per game is great, but in the same season that you're averaging a career high in field goal percentage is even better, because you're scoring more at a more efficient rate. And that's MVP type stuff. Like that is what leads you to a championship. That is a guy taking kind of the next step in scoring in a mature way. Like not just jacking up shots, not just in a volume shooting, but like within the system, efficient scoring. And like he should be the front runner to win MVP. He absolutely should right now.
No, I agree. I mean, they're the best team in the NBA. He is by far the best player in the top 5 points per game this year. I believe he's averaging.
He's third in
scoring.
Yeah, third in scoring, 31.9 points per game. But like, what is so impressive to me, and you talk about this past postseason and how he looked, and I think he's always been pretty from year one. I mean, us Sixers fans got to see it up close and personal. He's always been a talented scorer, never afraid. And I think, as you guys said, like the maturity and the maturing of Jayson Tatum has been incredible. League low turnover percentage this year. I'm sorry, that's not the stat. There's only 2 players with as high as usage rate as him, with over 26% usage rate, who have a lower turnover percentage. And to me, what that says is Jayson Tatum, not only not that he's becoming a better passer, but he's becoming more aware on offense, right? He's being able to read and make better reads. And he goes from, you may say, what's the difference of he averages 10.6% turnover percentage last year to 8.6 this year. What's the difference? Well, think about it. Like if that's another possession a game, that's not only just another possession, it's another Jayson Tatum possession where he has the ball and he's either shooting it or passing it, gives you a high chance. I'm sure the points per game are pretty high. So you're earning yourself another 2 points per game right there, if you want to look at it that way. So it's the small things. It's going to be improving around the margins. They were already the best team in the East. They've continued to be that, but it's in the face of adversity. So look, dude, it hurts to say, but the Celtics look awesome, and Tatum, 100%, I agree with you, should be the front runner for MVP right now.
Yeah, if this continues, I don't see how they're not the favorites to go and win the title. They're a run-it-back team, and their biggest team glare, they addressed it immediately and going and getting Malcolm Brogdon, who hasn't been lighting the world on fire, but he wasn't asked to.
Right.
Come and be our half-court point guard, and that's.
But a great player in a minimal role, and they will flourish. Yeah, it turns out.
A dog, a fighter, a blue-collar type player fits their scheme as well. So. Yeah, but Boston is definitely a force to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference, and Jayson Tatum is right now. So last season around this time, we still had Kyle with us. We talked about, I dropped the quote, go ahead and stamp Jayson Tatum in top 10. And that was solidified through the playoffs and the finals and everything. Now it's time to further that conversation. Is Jayson Tatum? Hey, Jake, I know it hurts, buddy. I know it may hurt to hear, but he's getting very close to that top 5 range.
I mean, here's what I'll say.
He's right behind.
There's too many people for top 5.
I know that 5, 6, 7 could be a collection of
they could be the all right.
It could be like 7, 8, 9 people. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yes, to all of them. But
there's 8 top 5 people in the NBA, and there's around 19 top 10 people.
Seriously. But Jayson Tatum is buying for a seat just as much as all those other guys are. He's right behind the Lukas, the Dames, you know what I mean? Him and Ja are kind of, to me, wrestling right next to that, like ready to.
I know we crap on Jokic, but he's got to be there.
He's also there too, right?
Yeah.
I don't really crap on
Jokic,
Giannis.
Jokic,
Steph.
Giannis, Embiid, Steph,
Embiid, KD.
Tough.
I mean, there's
Wherever
a lot of good players
LeBron,
in the NBA.
I don't know
right. Insert LeBron here. Yeah.
Book.
Well, but Book is kind of
Book's not top 5. Book's top 10, but
which means he's top 15.
Which means he's top 15. Which means he's top 20.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. Jayson Tatum is very
I'm with you there. I'm with you. I mean, whatever.
Like if
he's fine. It's fine.
And said Jayson Tatum is a top 5 player, you wouldn't.
I mean, sure, whatever. Yeah.
If he
wasn't
a Celtic, I wouldn't push back.
Exactly. I wouldn't push at all.
Celtic, I'm obligated to.
That's why it's whatever instead of agreed, right? Like,
well, I think it's real basketball fans and real observers of basketball can see how much impact he has. Like maybe the novice looks at the eye gouging and eye popping stats of Ja or the highlights and says, he's not better than Ja Morant or something like that. But when you realize how much weight he pulls on the best team in the NBA on both ends of the floor now, like
he's up there.
They're the best team.
What?
I have Ja.
We didn't say Kawhi Leonard's name either. Crazy.
Kawhi Leonard doesn't play basketball.
Well, yeah. I'm going to say their PA announcer doesn't say Kawhi Leonard's name. Why would we? their head coach doesn't say Kawhi Leonard.
I haven't been on the back of a Clippers jersey in quite some time.
Like, what? Oh, man. All right, last one we will go to. Speaking of that, we should have used that job point as a perfect segment to this one. Speaking of the brother, we can have a nice little debate right here. Ja Morant also starting to heat up. You could really break Ja's season this far into three chunks. An incredible start through 6 games, averaged 33, 5, and 6 on 55 from the floor, 56% from 3, 86% from the line. Then went in a 3-game slump, 18, 7, and 8 on 34, 22, and 77% splits. And then back into form in these last couple of games, 31 points per game, 8 assists, 6 rebounds on 48% from the floor, 33% from 3, 63% from the line. That's not great.
That's not
going to stick. We know it's not going to stick. But coming back into that Ja Morant form, had a great game the other night, or I believe last night against the Pelicans, where you talk about highlight plays. He was doing some things that in that game that I just have. The steal is I've never seen something like that before. Like he read the inbounder from the player on the court's eyes. Like he looked at when he was about to go up and catch the ball and then spun around and
it's like a cornerback. It's like
that was ridiculous. I don't think people realize how ridiculous that steal was, but it's been a little bit of a roller coaster season, up and down season for Ja right now, and that's not what you really want to see. Like, you love the explosions, but you want to see the consistency.
Yeah, and narrative-wise, he has a chance to really gain, if we want to talk about it from who's going, MVP-wise, with Desmond Bane now being out for an extended amount of time, he now has a chance to, if he continues to, remember when he went out and the Grizzlies carried without him, now he has a chance to repay that favor. I think it's going to do wonders for his narrative if he can do it. He is... Here's it's not really a hot take. Objectively, the most fun player in the NBA to watch play the game of basketball. To an objective viewer, if I don't know much about the league, I flip on a game, who do I want to see? My number one pick would be Ja Morant.
I think easily, to be honest.
If you put a red 2-3 jersey on him, and he did that two-handed switch dunk, it would be played on highlight reels for the rest of eternity. And it probably will be with him because he's going to be an all-time great player. Like, one of the most athletically gifted, not even a basketball player, like athletes that I have lived to see.
So I figured out what he reminds me of. So remember how athletic Russell Westbrook was early in his OKC days?
Yeah.
But imagine if he had the offensive skill of Derrick Rose to match that athleticism. That's Ja Morant. And that's just an incredible
But he shoots better. He also shoots better than both of them.
Yeah. I think Derrick Rose, if he came up today, would have better shooting, but
right. Yeah. Different era of shooting, but even still, he shoots better. But that's a good mix of talent. Jake, you're right. Like it's I'm replaying that dunk in my head, and it's
sickening.
Wild.
You shouldn't be able to do that. Like, if someone did that to me in a video game, I would turn off the Xbox and be like, this game stinks. No one could ever do that in real life. And Ja Morant does it on a nightly basis, which is incredible. But, just really quick point on the Grizzlies. I think this will be a barometer. I don't want to, make too much of the Desmond Bane injury. I know he's kind of a meme on this show. But, if they are able to be competitive without him, granted, they already showed it last year. There's not a team that you can put them up against where I'm like, oh, they're out of it. They're dead. This could be a team that could make a run. That's what I'm saying. They showed it last year.
They took, Matt, you said it perfectly. They took the champions to 6 games without him.
Yeah, that's That's so
without him.
That's messed up.
Like without him, there's not a team that they fear. There's not.
Ja Morant also proves the most Steph Curry haters wrong, where the Steph Curry hater got to the point where it doesn't matter if Steph's good and exciting, he's going to ruin guards forever because all they're going to do is be shoot and they won't be good at him. And then this is Ja Morant, who grew up, I'm sure, watching Steph Curry win MVPs and titles, and he plays his own game and is unbelievably exciting in his own way.
Well, because he's more athletic than.
That's my point. The NBA is going to produce unbelievable athletes. Like, we're not going to get a doomsday scenario where everyone's just going to be chucking threes.
Well, what I love and the only thing that's kind of similar to Ja and Steph is they both have God-given abilities that no one has, and they lean into those abilities at their position. Both of their abilities in different ways transcended their position. Ja uses his athleticism. Steph uses his shooting in ways that we can't ever expect anyone to ever replicate again. Like that they're both, and that's the only like categorically like, similarity that they have. But before we move on to our second segment, I just want to make a quick observation about the whole NBA. We talked about 4 guys on this list. The lowest average scoring output of the 4 guys on this list, that's Ja Morant, Jayson Tatum, Steph Curry, and Joel Embiid, is 29 points per game. Okay. There is, at the time when we checked, 2-3 weeks ago, there were 11 players averaging 29 or more points per game in the NBA. So I think it is a good time in basketball to discuss our standard of what good is, what great is, what elite is. Because I think 10 years ago, 27 points per game and up made you a great player. 28, 29 made you elite. 30 plus, and we were talking about you with the all-time greats. Nowadays, an elite player gives you 31. A great player gives you 29 to 30.
James, how many people averaged 31 points per game last year?
How many are you going to tell me? Like 2?
0.
Really? That's surprising.
Embiid led scoring with 30.6.
That's crazy.
I think there's going to be around 3 to 4 maybe that average over 30 this year, and but I don't think it's going to be like this.
No, I disagree. I disagree. I think it stays, because not only do you have these players, one, this is a race, and if I am all these players that we named are the scorers on their team, and I know I have to keep pace. That's my job as a scorer, as a league great scorer, and how I help my team. If I'm Embiid and I see the league scores, the league averagers are in the 31s, well, guess what I'm going to go and do as a scorer? Like, I understand there are ways to play basketball, and you have to, play within the game and not be a detriment to your team. But that's what these scorers are doing. Like that's you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
But think about also, my next point was going to be is why I think it's coming up as a whole proportionately, because now the great role players of the league, those are who average the 20 to 21s, like the Larry Markkanens and the Jordan Clarksons and the Tyler Heroes of the league. They average
22.
Yeah. They average 21 to 22. So if your great role players are averaging low to mid 20s, well, what's your elite scorer going to average?
It's a good point.
It all proportionally bumps up. You know what I mean? Like it's just more possessions in the game. Shots goes up more points goes up. And I think it's all going up. So I think it's just time to re-examine the barometer of, what we hold a good to great scorer.
It's really funny you say that, because when I was doing these stats, I was like, dang, that's a high points per game. Yeah, that's a high point per game too. They're all in like the 30s. I thought the same thing. And then I was checking the box scores last night. Like, imagine like you come home, for all of us, we talk about, after at least high school sports. How'd the game go? Oh, like our team scored 121 points in the basketball game. Oh, that's awesome. You guys won. No, we lost by 30. The Brooklyn Nets scored 121 and lost by 31 points to the Kings. What's going on in the NBA? Something strange is happening.
Drop the meme again. But you know what I mean? It's just there's so many points. And we can even go back to the Klay Thompson conversation we had, because what's he averaging from three this year? 35%?
33, I believe. 33% from three.
So that's league average, and it's historically bad for him.
For him.
So we hold Klay Thompson as a great shooter in the league. So you know what I mean? A great shooter can't be anywhere near league average. What is he normally averaging? 40%? Like what's supposed to be great 3-point shooting numbers? Like that's, you know what I mean? Like it's to me, we just in the era of scoring and points going points going on the board more. I think we have to raise the barometer. Like I think we have to raise the standard.
Yeah, Klay's still averaging like 15. Like in lieu of all of it, Klay's still scoring like 50, which is like that's like not too bad.
Steph
in the
Curry,
grand scheme,
right, but it is kind of bad.
Steph Curry won the MVP, scoring 23.8 points per game.
Yeah, it's not flying. And what was that, like 5 years ago? That was like 4 years ago. That's crazy. That was
7 years ago.
Oh wow,
that's gonna be 8 now. But
yeah, feels like 4.
But I just went back, looked at like how many times a 30-point per game in a season. It's always like the most I saw, just going back to there, was I saw 3, and there was 1 year. Shout out James Harden. He averaged 36. Next highest was 28. An 8-point gap between first and second is gross.
Hey, how many times does a guy average 30 and not won MVP? I can think of one instance. One instance is the only one I can think of.
Last year. All right, Jake. We'll move to the second part of the podcast. You want to take us through?
Yes. So I will be hosting our NFL silhouette game, something fun that we like to do. Blind resume basically is another name for it. I'm going to give James and Matt player A and player B their stat lines. I'll also give you a category in which they fall under to kind of guide your guessing process. And then I think I have one hint in the barrel if you really need it for each of these. Okay, is that fair enough? So
yeah, you guys always have me going against the big dog. Let's see, stat Matt.
Yeah, I mean this is man versus machine here. I mean this is like, I mean you take your pick. Bobby Fischer versus Big Blue. All of the great man versus machine matchups. Okay, let's get to football. So we're going to start at the quarterback position. And again, this is stats from this year alone. All these stats are going to be this year, where they rank in the league this year, etc. So we have player A, quarterback A, 2,200.
I have a question off the bat.
Yep, go ahead.
Are the touchdowns combined touchdowns?
No, passing. Passing touchdowns. This will be passing touchdowns, what is written. 2,265 yards, passing yards, 18 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 80.1 on target percentage, which is second in the NFL, and 8.8 intended air yards per passing attempt, which is fourth in the NFL. And then we have player B, quarterback B, which has 2,733 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 78% on target percentage, which is 8th in the NFL, and a 6.7 intended air yards per attempt, 23rd in the NFL. We'll start. I guess. I mean, you guys can tell me. Do you want to go write it down and then you guys both reveal your answers?
No, we can do honor system. I don't think we each other.
I have a guess for player B, player A.
I have a guess for player A. I don't really have a guess for player B yet. I have an outside guess for player B. I don't like my guess for player B.
I mean, these are guys, for what it's worth, who have been, I mean, this is not going to narrow it down at all, but at some point in this podcast history, we've obviously talked about both. So
okay,
I hope that
right.
helps. I hope that helps.
Thanks. Like, we don't cover pretty much every team in the NFL, but like, well, you said there's a category you put them into. What's the category?
QB. I'm sorry. Yeah, quarterback.
QB.
Like there's a. I'm sorry, positional category.
I'll take my 2 guesses. Ready?
Okay. Go ahead.
Player A, I'm gonna guess is
wait. Okay, go ahead.
Is that how we're doing it? That's how we're doing it?
Well, okay. I want to hear both of your guesses before I tell you which one's right. So,
right. Okay.
Player A is Tua.
Player B, Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Player B, I think, is Mahomes.
That was my other guess.
Player A, I don't think Tua's played long enough to throw 18 touchdowns. I'm gonna go with Geno Smith.
Okay, so Matt, just to be clear, you have Geno Smith A and who Mahomes B. James, you had Tua A and Rodgers B. James is correct on half of his. Player A is Tua Tagovailoa. 8 games this year.
A lot of
18 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. People lauded or rather trashed his arm. On target percentage is high. Player B, none of you got right, is a guy who was in his draft class.
Lamar?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I
Joe
had some Joe
Burrow. Out of, like, if you were to tell me literally 5 months ago, hey, Tua's going to outplay pretty clearly Joe Burrow next year, I would have called, like, for someone to talk you down because I would thought you would be having, like, an episode or something. Something. Like, so I guess point being, like, looking back, obviously it's a little early. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in that class. If you had to re-rank them this year, top 3 quarterbacks there: Burrow, Herbert, Tua. Does the order change from last year? What is your order, and has it changed this year? I guess is my question.
The order is the same, but the gap
is minuscule.
There's no
I'll
gap.
tell you what. I'll tell you. Yeah,
Burrow,
no
small gap. Herbert,
they're standing on each other's
tiny
shoulders.
Gap. Tua.
No, to me, they're all standing on each other's shoulders. And Herbert makes 1 or 2 throws a week that keeps him up there. Like, if it wasn't for like the crazy, ridiculous across the body throws, him and Burrow would be neck and neck. But he makes some incredible plays that puts him right above those two. I'm actually very surprised about the intended air yards per play from Joe Burrow being in the bottom 7 of the league or bottom 8 in the league in that category when you have weapons down the field such as Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, etc. Now, this is 2 games without Jamar Chase now, so I'm not sure how much that is taking into consideration. 2 out of the 7-8 games that they've played, or 8-9 games that they've played, so that might weigh it down a little bit. But that's just surprising. Like, it's a team who loved to put it down the field last year and is not doing it as much this year. So interesting. But I'm glad I got the first one.
Yeah, I was like, is James going to hit this like off bat? That would have been really impressive. Honestly, I may have just given the game to you.
My second guess was going to be Lamar for player B.
Right. Yeah. Not a terrible guess with how that year has shaken out.
I feel like Lamar has good deep ball throws this year, though.
They're good, but there's not a lot. Not many of them.
Yeah, I mean that you got Devin Duvernay running around out there, and you're like thankful when you see him.
I just feel like I've seen highlights of him throwing the ball deep.
Right. Well, star of the league, lots of social clips getting churned, but we'll move on to category 2, running back, ball carrier, whatever you want to call it. And we have player A. These again, all the stats right here will be rushing. 86 carries for 635 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. That computes out to 7.4 yards per attempt, 5 before contact, 2.3 yards after contact, and leads the league in broken tackle rate, I guess you could call it. Breaks a tackle every 6.6 rushing attempts. Player B, 129 carries, 609 yards, same 2 touchdowns, which and that adds out to 4.7 yards per attempt. They have 3.1 yards before contact per attempt and 1.7 after contact per attempt. And I forget exactly where this ranks. Still on the upper top 15, but 10.8 attempts per broken tackle. Who is player A? Who is player B? Write down your answers beforehand, and then Matt, you can start out once.
Are they running backs?
They're ball carriers. Rushers? This is rushers. Yeah, ball carriers.
Again, I have a guess for player A, but not for player B.
So before anyone answers, make sure that both people have answers locked in to remind the contestants.
Right. Thank you, Alex Trebek.
We need a Vanna White. And, it's really actually pretty impressive to look through the running backs like yards after carry and put in perspective. I guess I can't name any names because then you'll know it's not them, but
right.
We'll hold discussion for after.
I think the second one's really obscure. Or just like kind of obscure.
And by that, okay, so do you want to give?
I have my both.
Do you have both? I never like my second guess, but yeah, sure, I'm gonna lock in.
Okay, we'll lock in. Matt, go ahead. Who is player A?
A is Lamar Jackson. B is Jeff Wilson.
Two really good
Lamar
guesses.
Jackson and Jeff
the Lamar Wilson. Guesses, you're going for broke on that one. I don't even know if Jake is sly enough to pull that.
Right, it's such a small carry number. It's got to be like a
I know, and here's why. I think first one is Miles Sanders, and then I think the second one is Nick Chubb.
Not bad guesses all around. Honestly,
Nick Chubb's got a better yards per carry than that.
All of the guesses.
True. It's the perfect rate.
I guess are kind of true to, and once I reveal the answer, it'll be clear. Once again, one of you guys got one of the answers. That being Matt, you were right. The carries was a giveaway. It was Lamar Jackson as player A. Wow. It says RB, tricky. I know, it's a ball carrier. These are his rushing stats. And player B, much to my behest, is Jonathan Taylor. Gosh darn it. On my fantasy team, Jonathan Taylor, what's going on? Jonathan Taylor has obviously that offense has not been great, and that's a big part of it. He's been banged up.
4.7's not bad.
But the yards after contact, 1.7, like he's supposed to be as big as the linebackers. And I think a lot of what we've seen. So I put this on here for two reasons. Number one, Lamar Jackson is the best ball carrier, rusher. He's the best player with the football in terms of elusiveness in the NFL by a pretty wide margin. And then number two, the second point is that Jonathan Taylor is being either, it depends on what camp you're in. You either think he's being squandered or he may be showing signs that he might have a little Trent Richardson in him. I'm more prone to say that he's not a flash in the pan and that this is all the Colts offense and it'll get sorted out, which it did in his first game against with Jeff Saturday as his head coach.
You know why this is a little tough for me to see the Lamar stats? Is because I'll never agree with the Ravens not paying him. But when you see stats like this, you understand their side of the coin. You see what they're talking about. Because not his best stats, but almost his best stats are his rushing stats.
Where he leads the league, right?
Where he leads the league is his rushing stats. His quarterback stats are still good. He can play the quarterback position very well. His league leading stats are his rushing stats. And running backs don't have a long shelf life. They just don't. I'm not looking to pay a franchise quarterback for a 5-6 year prime. I'm looking to pay a franchise quarterback for a 7, 8, 9, 10 year run. You know what I mean? Like I'm in the world of the Mahomes, Allen, Watson, like they're all going to projected to have long careers at the quarterback position. If Lamar's best stats are his rushing stats, I can't bank on 6 years from now his rushing stats still leading the league. I can't. Not as he gets older, as his body takes hits, as younger guys come in the league. Like you can't. Not to say that it won't happen, but as a team, I can't really bank on that. If he had great rushing stats, but his league leading stats were his passing stats, no brainer pay him.
I mean, here's what I'll say. A lot of if you were to go to a team we mentioned the Jets last week who have a burgeoning defense. 49ers, it's supposedly the Ravens, but they haven't played that way. If you have a dominant defense, you can get away with Lamar Jackson being not great, not the best at throwing the football, and then you're able to run the football at the top rate in the league, and you can win a lot of games that way.
When they went 14-2, that's exactly what they did. Exactly
and the defense has not been good. So that
came to a screeching halt in the playoffs. But and here's the thing, Jake.
I'm just gonna say when I look at the glass half full. If you have someone that explosive as a quarterback that can do that,
that's
you
a plus,
pay
not a
him,
minus.
and then you worry about
true.
5 years down the line. 5 years down the line.
5 years down the line. No, I hear you. I absolutely hear you.
Yeah. All right. So that was a fun one.
What are these pass catcher numbers? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, what? Is this a single game? Why these guys stink?
Nah, they both. You know both of their names well.
Well, they stink.
You know both of their names well. I want you to flex your muscles for this next one, the last one that we have here. Pass catchers. So not necessarily just wide receivers. This is pass catchers. So player A. On the year, 16 catches, 174 yards, 3 touchdowns, 7.7 yards per target. Player B, 6 catches for only 54 yards, 0 touchdowns. Who on earth could this be? 7.8 yards per target. Hey, look, this is by far the toughest one. In fact, some may even say you're not supposed to get it right.
Am I supposed to know these two? I'm supposed to know
both of their names. You know both of their names.
9 games in.
Yes, and you knew both of their names last year and the year before that. And I don't know. I actually probably can't go back that far because I don't know the careers, but
we know both the names, and you said pass catchers.
Correct.
Which means in my mind, one of them is going to be a tight end.
I think one's.
I got my guesses.
Okay, Matt has A and B locked in.
I have A and B locked in.
Okay, wow.
I'll go first this time.
Yeah, you can go first.
I think the first one is Chris Godwin. And I think no, it's not. He only has 2 touchdowns. Crap.
I'll let you guess.
No. Whatever. Chris
it's
Godwin.
Just guess again. It's not Chris Godwin. I'll let you guess again.
All right, I'll redo A. I gotta put some thought about A. B is Darren Waller, is my guess.
Okay.
I got Darren Waller as A for me.
Oh, really?
I got Kadarius Toney as B.
No, okay. Kadarius Toney scored a touchdown last week.
Oh, he did.
Well, he still got it wrong, man.
I'll let you. You both got. I'll let Matt. I'll let you redo B. James, I'll let you redo A, and then that'll be the final.
Well, I just told him he was wrong, but I guess you told me I was wrong. Okay.
I jumped the gun and say another one, implying that it was not him. So I thought the cat was out.
Oh, I got it. Player A, Michael Thomas. Yeah, player A, Michael Thomas.
Okay, James locks in his answer. Matt,
player do you have like Ezekiel Elliott? You go anti-wide receiver for both to trick us?
Well, so you got. That's why I guess tight end.
You have Waller and Zeke. James, you have Mike Thomas and
Waller and Darren Waller.
And Waller. Okay, so I will tell you, one of you guys has a correct answer. Mike Thomas. That was big, James. That was a big guess. It gives you the win, I believe, here.
Oh, slap boy!
Because player B, I don't think either of you were ever going to get. And that is Mike Thomas is an ex-teammate. He just changed teams. He wears Kelly Green now. And he plays on defense, which is why you guys probably wouldn't have gotten it. Chauncey Gardner, Chauncey Gardner, 6 interceptions, 54 yards on the return, and he allows 7.8 yards per target. How crazy is that?
What are Darren Waller's stats this year?
It's funny you say that because you're like Darren Waller. I'm like, that's actually not a bad guess. Darren Waller has had an awful year. He's
hurt now in RR, right?
Darren Waller, 16 for 175 and 1 touchdown. Oh my god,
that's crazy.
So I say this to say, first off, Mike Thomas. It's a shame because
Dunzo.
Those are that's in like 2 full games played, those stats. So that's actually like not terrible. He can't stay healthy. It's a shame. And the way it ties in beyond the ex-teammate is another trade made with the Saints was to acquire their first-round pick. They stink. And Chauncey Gardner, on the other hand, is now on the number 1 defense in the NFL. Actually, I don't know. After that last week, I haven't seen the stats. And to my knowledge, leads the NFL in interceptions. I would have to imagine.
Absolutely. I would think by a good margin. First safety since like 2015 to have a pick in 5 straight games.
Crazy.
And I took a big old L because, when you guys traded for him and they dropped that video of him getting in Brady's face, I commented on Bleacher Report and I was like, y'all are going to watch him get torched all season. And I've yet to see yet a torching. There's been nary a torching on that brother. In fact, he holds the torch every
his
time.
interception numbers are clouding some rough plays, but he's been a very good acquisition, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a defense that good and you have cornerbacks that good, as a free roam safety, they put him in a cover 2 and they just say play center field for half the field. They split the field in half and they play center field. So I just got to gamble on the long ball. And I'm gonna get it. If I go and play ball on the deep route every time, it'll get me some interceptions. So, good for him. Good for him. But if that's all done, I'll take my victory.
Yeah,
I don't.
Wrap it up.
Thank you.
Could it be your first ever?
No,
you've won before. You've won before.
I've won before, but you beat me last time. Last time when we did this, you beat me. So thank you. Back in the win column, but. We're almost out of time for this episode of Straight Facts. As always, we can get some shots up at the buzzer. Who's got a shot at the buzzer for me?
So I just want to I say it every year, super hyped. By the time you're listening to this, it will be game day tomorrow. Penn Women's Hoops opens up against James's Nova Wildcats. Some Big 5 ball in the Palestra on NBC Sports Philly Plus. If you're in our area and you have that, check us out. James, I don't want to admit this on air, but I will. You and I were talking, and I said, you know what? I think, if I had to gauge, like it's probably going to be like a Nova will win by like 7. It'll be sizable enough, but we'll no. Let me tell you what. I took a look at the box score. Them dominating Princeton, who has dominated Penn for a while. I am now shaking in my boots, shall we say, as the Penn color analyst. The Wildcats have an awesome team, and I cannot wait to see Maddie Siegrist. Genuinely excited.
Jake, you have a privilege to sit courtside and see Maddie Siegrist go to work. And that Penn game talked about 32-13, some very light, but I think this is really, I said it last year and it still didn't happen. So this is really the year that the women's college basketball world learns who Maddie Siegrist is in a big way. 3rd team All-American last year with being the second association bound. 3rd team All-American with being the second leading scorer in the country last year, and by only like 2 or 3 points is laughable to me. Absolutely laughable. So we're taking over U City tomorrow night, but not only hyped to see that game, but it's going to be my first time kind of seeing you do your thing in the Palestra, man, at the most historic venue in college basketball. I think it's really dope that you get to call for Penn, man. So that's going to be awesome for those Straight Facts listeners, our friends and family. You're not doing anything tomorrow night. I think the Sixers still have off. So, tune in NBC Sports Plus and see some Big 5 women's basketball.
The cathedral of college hoops. They call it that.
It's beautiful. I love the
Gives me goosebumps.
You actually kind of took half of my at the buzzer. So I'll go into this one is, just the start of college basketball season. We don't talk about college basketball a whole lot on this.
I realize I let you slide actually talking about Nova Hoops because of the Temple win.
Because go ahead, talk your stuff.
I forgot to let you know it's the Temple Owls year, baby. We're finally making the tournament, and Dame Dunn's going to the league after. He's playing for the Sixers.
Khalif Battle also had a good game at the point guard position. I'll give Temple some credit. Look, man. Brand new roster, brand new head coach. Our 2 best players not playing, and this is a team who's familiar with Nova. You play us every year. It's Big 5 basketball, like to the college basketball, like to the rest of the college basketball world. That looks like a really bad loss to Nova, and it's not a great one. Doesn't sit in the stomach well, but this is Big 5 basketball.
Big 5, yeah.
Like this is, come on, man. Like this is, you know what I mean? Like this is the longest tradition in college basketball history. These guys have been playing since college basketball was a thing. So
literally,
literally. So, it's understandable. Now, Michigan State, for those who are listening, when it drops tomorrow on Friday, Nova goes to Michigan State. That's the one. They go it and we're up 13 against Gonzaga. Ends up losing a very close game on a boat in the middle of the sea for the first game, then go and knock off the number 4 team in the country in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, for the second game. So now you get to come back home to East Lansing, Michigan for the first game, and we got to be your opponent. So, hey, never a doubt in my Nova Wildcats, but that's going to be a tough one. May have to see Cam Whitmore for the first time in that game. We may have to see Cam Whitmore suit up for that one.
Michigan State's still unranked, right? That's crazy. They will be, but they're right now. I mean, it's like
if it's a nasty cycle, right? Because it's still the same week that they just won. So they lose, and all the same week they will have lost to Gonzaga, beat Kentucky, and maybe lost to Nova. Like, to me, that just puts you exactly where you were. You didn't go anywhere. You didn't move forward. You didn't move backward. That's right. That's right where you are.
I guess.
Because now we're unranked, which is harsh, by the way.
Yeah.
Because y'all aren't that bad. I mean, you guys lost to Wagner the game before, but like damn, we were 16. That moved us 9 spots. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough. Stat Matt, you got something at the buzzer?
So the World Cup is starting next week. If you're not,
are you gonna give us updates? Are you gonna give us?
No, I'm actually not gonna give you updates because if you're not a soccer fan, I would say don't watch. Because this Qatar World Cup is like a humanitarian travesty.
Did you see the barracks that they're sleeping in?
Like 6,500 people died building the stadiums with slave labor. Like they're like not gonna let like people wear like rainbow patches on their armbands because they're an anti-gay country. Like if you're a soccer fan, you're gonna watch the World Cup because you're stuck. But if you're not a soccer fan, you think, oh, the World Cup, I tune in every 4 years. I know the United States are in it. Try not to tune in unless like you're really bored on Black Friday.
That's tough as a U.S. fan because we don't go every year.
We're going next time for sure because it's in the U.S.
Do we get an automatic bid?
That's so sad to say out loud. Okay, how sad is that to say out loud? Oh my goodness, we're in for sure.
But yeah, but like as a pseudo soccer fan and someone who's hyped that the U.S. is finally in it after trashing
I'm not
making
saying,
the Olympics.
I'm not saying like
I want to be
morally wrong for people to watch it. I'm not doing that thing. I'm saying if you're not a soccer fan, you thought, hey, the World Cup's on, maybe just find something else to watch. Like if you want to watch the World Cup, you're gonna watch the World Cup.
Here's the thing: it's not a normal World Cup year where it's in the summer where nothing else is going on. You got other stuff to watch. Like if you want to watch a World Cup game, there's gonna be something else on. It's in the fall this year or the winter, whenever it kicks off. But Statbat's like, no, I'm not gonna give you soccer updates. I don't know if maybe you're just gonna stick to Liverpool updates, or they're gonna be on a break. They're gonna be
they're on a long break. Liverpool's been rough this season, but they're up to 6th in the table.
Not bad.
Arsenal's had a great season, and Man City's been a little shaky. Maybe Arsenal can fend them off, but I just don't want Man City to win because they're like a fake team. But whatever.
And that's soccer from Statman. Thank you. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Straight Facts. Again, shout out to everyone on the Up On Game Presents Network, LeVar Arrington, Plexico Burris, TJ Hushmanzada. Make sure you're liking, following, and subscribing to them on all platforms. Get all the content on the Up On Game Network. They do great stuff over there. And also shout out to my guys, Jake Galley and Stat Matt Robinson. I'm James Jackson. These have been the facts.
Straight up.